Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a good day on this freezing, icy Wednesday in Boston. We all heard Hamas's announcement last week and the terrible news that they said about the Bibas family. And I won't repeat that here because the Bibas family asked us all to have hope and not to say anything till they hear from the IDF or from the police, from the Israeli military. But I want to talk about the Bibas family, about Hamas, about terror, etc. We'll start with something from the Torah. In this week's Torah portion, we read the prohibition that we can't cook a kid in the milk of its mother. And from there, the rabbis deduce and take the law that we're not allowed to mix milk and meat. We can't eat milk and meat together. And the question is why? The Torah doesn't give us the reasoning. It's what we would call a chok. It's something beyond our understanding. But as the Torah encourages us, the rabbis try to grapple with it and to understand what's the reason. And one of the interpretations the Kabbalists, the mystics give us is something very powerful and beautiful, which I think connects to what we're witnessing. Milk represents, in Kabbalistic terms, chesed, kindness. On Yom Kippur, when we want forgiveness and kindness from God, we dress in white. A mother nurses their baby with milk, which is white, ultimate kindness. And the miraculous thing is that as the mother continuously gives the child milk, the mother's milk gets replenished. And the moment the mother stops, the milk stops coming. And this is representative of chesed, of kindness, of constantly giving. God tells us through the prophets that when God forgives our sins, we will be kasheleg, white like snow, which is the representation of chesed, of kindness. Meat, on the other hand, we say red meat. Meat represents, you have to kill an animal. It represents murder. It represents killing and blood, and the opposite of kindness. In a certain sense, it represents evil. Now, it's interesting because when people get married, we always say opposites attract, which is a very true thing. The irony is they say that people often get divorced for the same reason they get married. What does that mean? What do you mean they get divorced for the same reasons they get married? Very simple. Why do people get married? People get married because you want someone that's going to compliment you. You know, the Kabbalists tell us that the word shalom, which means peace, also comes from the word shalem, which means whole, which is really telling us that sometimes when you marry someone, not just you get peace in the home, but you get completeness. You're calmer, they're more intense, you're quieter, they're louder, etc., etc. There are certain things that complement each other, and opposites do attract. And that's why the irony they say people sometimes get divorced for the same reason they get married is because they get married because someone has opposite things than them, and then they get divorced because they get frustrated by those things instead of realizing that that complements them and that enhances and brings completeness and wholeness to their marriage and to their home. But what the Torah is telling us here, when the Torah says you can't mix milk and meat, the Torah is telling us something very powerful. Opposites attract, but when it comes to evil and murder and killing and blood, you can't mix that with kindness and caring and love. Those two things don't go together. You know, we're watching in horror as Hamas is bargaining chips for the dead bodies of a 4-month-old Kfir, a 4-year-old Ariel, and their mother Shiri. Not just did they take live hostages, and not just were they not taken by the Hamas terrorists, but by the citizens and the civilians of Gaza. Make no mistake, it wasn't Hamas. It was the regular civilian. You could see in the videos of how the Bibas family is captured. But not only did they do that, and not only did they possibly kill them in captivity, but they're bargaining chips as though they're prisoners for their bodies. And Israel's going to release 60 or whatever terrorists, murderers, live ones, for these bodies. And you hear in Israel and all over the Jewish world and on Twitter, people say, if the Bibas kids come back and they're not alive, that's over. We have to wipe out Hamas. Really? That's what you need? Did you forget that Hamas burned babies in ovens on October 7th? Did you forget that Hamas killed and shot parents in front of their little children and children in front of their parents? That they literally did what the Nazis did in the Holocaust? Raping, killing, burning, beheading? We need the Bibas kids to come back not alive, to recognize and realize who Hamas is. Do we not forget that our mistake to begin with was that for 20 years we thought we could pacify Hamas by giving them money, by building their economy, and they won't want to kill us? And how wrong we were? So I'm not surprised about the world, because the world hates us. The world are a bunch of bigots. As Menachem Begin said, better to have bad press than a good eulogy. I know that the world hates us and doesn't care if it's the Bibas kids or anyone else. But us, who are we fooling? We're waiting for the Bibas kids to, heaven forbid, come back not alive to say that's it with Hamas? So today they announced in Israel that Hamas said that they're ready to do phase 2 of the hostage deal in one shot, to give back all the live hostages and do the whole phase 2. And in Israel, there's big turmoil because Prime Minister Netanyahu put Ron Dermer, his person for strategic affairs, in charge of the negotiations. And Ron Dermer said unequivocally when he met with the hostage families that he's not ready to get all the hostages out if he has to finish the war for good. He's not ready to give that up, that they're not going to finish the war. And people are screaming in Israel. We all want the hostages back. But let's not fool ourselves. We can't finish this war until we finish it. We can't allow Hamas or their proxies to stay in any sort of power. If America and the president of America and Saudi Arabia and these people understand it, what about us? Of course we want our hostages back. But we can't jeopardize all the other live people in Israel. It's such a hard thing to talk about. But we know how evil Hamas is. And we know that the only answer is total and utter destruction. And that's what the Torah tells us. And the Torah says, Lo savashal gediba chalevi moi, don't mix milk and meat. We're kind, caring people. We celebrate life. We celebrate love. We celebrate building. We celebrate innovation, creation, holiness, spirituality, kindness. And they celebrate terror, murder, butchering, raping, killing. Those two things can never be mixed together. And they can't be on our border, and they can't be living on our side, ready to kill us. May Hashem protect all the hostages, and may we hear good news with all of them. And may God bless Hashem Yivarech et Amo v'Shalom.